had that thing happen where you walk away from like a conversation with someone and then like all these amazing things you could have said pop into your head? Or maybe someone asks you a simple question like, how's your day going? And your mind just goes totally blank.
Oh, yeah. It happens to all of us all the time.
Seriously.
Uh,
And especially, I think if you're like trying to navigate conversations in a language that's not your native language, it can feel even more, I don't know, just uncertain.
oh, for sure. If English isn't your first language, I can imagine that feeling of insecurity is even stronger.
Yeah,
But honestly, I think that feeling in conversations is something we all experience, no matter how fluent we are.
definitely. And that's actually what we're going to really kind of dig into today.
They are.
So in this deep dive, we're looking at some super practical ways to make everyday conversations, the ones you have with friends, with people you're just meeting, even just quick exchanges with strangers, how to make those easier and smoother and honestly just more enjoyable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the time we're done here, you'll feel a little more equipped to handle those conversations.
Yeah.
More present, more confident.
For sure, for sure. So I think one of the big things that can affect how we feel in conversations is, well, we kind of size ourselves up against other people, right? Like we're constantly thinking, are they more interesting than me?
Yeah.
Or are they more confident?
It's so true. That need to compare ourselves to others can be a real conversation killer. Like you get intimidated before you even open your mouth. It's
Well,
actually really interesting when you think about why we do that. Humans are just wired for social comparison.
totally. But what if you could just decide to just drop that whole who's better thing? Like get rid of that scorecard in your head.
Oh my gosh, it would be so freeing, wouldn't it? When you can really shift your perspective to, like, no one's above me, I'm not above anyone else, we're all just people trying to connect. It's like the playing field is leveled,
Yeah.
and suddenly you can just be more genuine. I mean, think about it. When you stop worrying about measuring up, what happens?
Yeah, it really does change things, doesn't it? I think you lose that fear of not being good enough or whatever, and you can just be more yourself.
Exactly. You're not putting on a performance,
Huh.
You're not trying to be who you think they want you to be. You're just there connecting with another human.
Yeah, yeah. And,
Hmm.
for anyone listening who's learning English, this is especially important, I think. Native English speakers aren't some higher beings when it comes to conversation. Don't let this idea of perfection stop you from just talking.
Yeah. It's not about being perfect. Even native speakers make mistakes all the time. They say awkward things. They stumble over their words. It's just part of being human. The important thing is connecting with the other person.
Totally. So let's say you've started to let go of that whole comparison thing. What's like a challenge that still comes up? For me, it's those times when someone asks you something really simple and open-ended, like, how was your week? And suddenly it's like my mind is completely blank.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. It's
Hmm.
like all the interesting things that happened, all the thoughts you had, they just evaporate the second someone puts you on the spot.
Yes.
And then you just end up saying something super generic like, oh, it was fine, and then instantly regretting it.
Exactly. And then you realize, oh, I haven't even thought about what I might actually want to talk about.
It's the pressure of the moment, I think. We put so much pressure on ourselves to have something interesting to say. But here's something you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Before you head out for the day, just take a quick minute to think, what's been going on? Did you learn anything cool? Did you try something new? Even if it's something small.
Yeah, just having a couple of little things in mind, like a funny thing your dog did or an interesting article you read can really help those conversations flow.
Oh, for sure. And another thing that can be surprisingly useful is just jotting down stuff that happens every day. It doesn't have to be a full-blown diary or anything, just a couple of bullet points about your day, like you had a really good cup of coffee or saw an amazing sunset, even just a different route you took to work. It sounds silly, but it can really help.
Oh, I love that because then when someone asks what's new, you actually have something to share.
Exactly. It's like you're building this little database of conversation starters in your head. And for those of you who are, working on your English, this has an added benefit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Try like talking to yourself in English about those everyday things, like describe a TV show you watched or a walk you took or something. It's good practice. And then when that topic comes up in conversation, you'll feel more comfortable talking about it.
That makes so much sense. Okay, but what if you haven't had time to prepare or your mind still goes blank? What then?
Well, sometimes the best way to start a conversation is to just notice something around you and say something about it.
Oh, yeah, totally. I had this great conversation once that started because I was standing in a really long line and I just turned to the person next to me and said, wow, this line is moving slow today.
It's so simple, but it works.
Mhm.
because it's something you're both experiencing in that moment. It's a shared experience, so it feels natural.
And it can work anywhere too, like at a cafe, at the gym, waiting for class to start. Just look around and find something to comment on.
Totally. And, you know, if you're practicing your English, this is a really good technique because you don't need to use fancy vocabulary. It's just about making a simple connection.
Yeah, you don't need to impress anyone with your language skills. Just be genuine.
So true.
Mhm.
Now, another thing to remember, talking is like any other skill. You get better with practice. The more conversations you have, the easier it becomes.
It's like working out, right?
Yeah,
The more consistently you do it, the stronger you get.
exactly. So if you're working on your English, try to have as many little conversations as you can. Ask someone for the time, order food at a restaurant, just say thank you to someone. Each interaction helps you build your confidence.
And it's totally okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn. The important thing is to keep putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. So we've talked about like getting over that fear of comparison and being prepared to share. Now let's talk about listening.
Oh, yeah, listening is so important. It's easy to get caught up in thinking about what you're going to say next, and then you miss what the other person is saying.
Right. And when you really listen with curiosity, it makes the other person feel heard
Yeah.
and they're more likely to open up. That's how you have those really authentic, genuine conversations.
And even simple things like repeating back what someone just said shows that you're paying attention. Like if they say, I had a busy weekend, you could say, oh, a busy weekend. What did you do?
Exactly. And when you're really focused on listening, you're not as worried about what you're going to say next. You can just be present in the moment.
And for those of you learning English, listening is such a crucial skill.
For sure. It helps you understand more, you learn new vocabulary, and it gives you ideas for what to say next. Even simple responses like, that's interesting, or really, tell me more, can keep the conversation going.
And it shows that you're engaged without needing to come up with something super complex to say. Remember, people want to feel heard, not necessarily impressed by your vocabulary.
So true. Now let's think about different types of conversations. Talking to a stranger is obviously different than talking to a close friend.
For sure, like there's a different energy, right?
Totally. With strangers, it's exciting because it's a fresh start. You don't have any shared history to worry about.
But then there's that in-between zone with acquaintances, people you've met before but don't know that well. Those conversations can sometimes feel a little awkward.
Yeah, sometimes. You might not remember everything about them or what you talked about last time. But the good thing is, you can kind of treat it like a fresh start too. Just ask simple, open-ended questions like, how's that project you were working on going? Or did you end up seeing that movie we talked about?
Yeah, that's a good point. And then with close friends, things are usually much more effortless, right? Because you have that shared history and comfort level.
Exactly. And for those of you learning English, it's okay to adjust your confidence level based on who you're talking to. Strangers are great for practice. Acquaintances are good for building connections. And with friends, you can just relax and be yourself.
So you've made some connections, you're having these conversations. How do you keep those connections going over time?
Well, it's all about consistent communication.
Mm.
Think about it. Every time you have a good conversation with someone, you're adding to that relationship.
Oh, I like that. It's like you're making a deposit.
Exactly. And over time, those deposits build up, and you create these strong bonds with friends and acquaintances.
But if you don't nurture those connections, what happens?
It's like anything else. If you neglect it, it starts to fade. Those connections weaken.
So even small things, like a quick text or a check-in, can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And if you're working on your English, every conversation, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. Just keep those connections going.
No, of course, not every conversation can go on forever. You have to know how to end them politely.
Right. The art of the graceful exit.
Yeah. Like, I have a couple of go-to lines I use, like, I'm going to grab another coffee, but it was great talking to you. Or I need to head out, but it was lovely chatting. Something simple like that.
Those are perfect. They're friendly, and they give a reason for ending the conversation.
Yeah, and if you're not super confident in your English, it's helpful to have a few of those phrases ready to go. It makes things less awkward.
So true. Now, as we wrap up, let's just go over a few pro tips for better conversations. The first one is to really try to be present in the moment. Don't get so caught up in thinking about what you're going to say next that you miss what the other person is saying.
Yeah, and to show that you're listening, try to paraphrase what they said. Like, if they mentioned they went on a trip, you could say, oh, so you just got back from traveling. It shows you're paying attention and encourages them to share more.
Another good tip is to have a few conversation topics in your back pocket in case things start to get quiet. Like movies you've seen or local events or even just asking about their day. It's an easy way to connect.
And don't underestimate those acquaintances. They can be really valuable for expanding your social circle and even opening up new opportunities, so stay in touch with them.
So what's the main message we want people to take away from this deep dive?
It's that the goal of conversation isn't to be perfect, it's to connect with another person.
Exactly. It's about sharing a moment, exchanging ideas, building relationships.
So our encouragement to you is to just go for it. Don't be afraid to speak up, even if you're not sure what to say. Every conversation is a chance to connect.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep talking.
Now, here's a little something to think about. What's one thing from our conversation today that you could try doing differently in your next interaction? Or maybe think about which type of conversation you find most challenging and why that is. Just something to ponder as you go about your day.
That's a great question.
All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.